Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
This is The People's View. I'm Carl Seidel, as your co-host, and today we have Representative Don LeBrun. Don, you're a member of the Health and Human Services Committee, and can you tell us a little bit about that committee and what's happening up there in Concord?
Health and Human Services, in my view, is probably the best and the most productive committee in Concord. That's my personal feeling. And the reason I feel that way is because, in my experience, it's always been a very bipartisan committee. Mm-hmm. We don't worry about who's Democrat, who's Republican. We just go out and we do our business because our business is the largest part of the budget. And basically, our business is directly aimed at helping the people who need help the most. And that's what we're all about. And we just work together. We all like each other personally. We converse when we're not in committee. We have fun and we converse and we constantly have good food to eat and everything else. And we have other committees coming into our committee to get their food. And then we go about our business in a very business-like fashion.
Good. Well, I know your background. You've been in a number of different agencies that provide health to the needy. The Red Cross is one I know that you were very active in.
I had 51 years with the Red Cross, all as a volunteer. Never took a penny. Oh. I was offered many jobs, but that was not my position. I felt that my position was as a volunteer.
Very good. I know I came across what you did when they had those serious rains several years ago up here, and you're doing some work with the people. I imagine your constituents in Ward 5 remember you from that.
I hope so.
Okay. Well, tell us.
They seem to have remembered me at the polls this past election.
Well, I hope so, and I hope they remember you next time too. But what are the biggest bills that have gone through the committee so far, and what can we anticipate coming through in the next month or two?
We've had a lot of interesting bills. I guess the most paramount bill that we've had this year is the medical marijuana bill. It's a bill who most everyone thinks the time has come. It's a bill that is going to help so many people that modern medicine has not been able to help. And their only alternative is to turn to medical marijuana, which is totally regulated. We have built so many regulations into the bill, so many checks and balances, and we feel that we've come up with a really good bill to get this off the ground and get it started. It's not a perfect bill. No bill is perfect. But we feel like we have gotten something that is workable to start with.
Well, what kind of distribution is there going to be on the medical marijuana?
Currently, and now the bill passed the committee a vote of 14-1, and it hasn't gone to the House yet. It comes to the House next Wednesday, and we feel it will pass the House without any problem. And what it amounts to, we have set up or have the possibility to set up 5 alternative treatment centers throughout the state. And those centers will be inspected, audited, everything you can think of. They will be controlled so that there is no possibility of marijuana leaking out into the general public and whatnot.
So these are state-owned facilities, or are they?
No, they're facilities that private entities can bid on, and it costs in the neighborhood of $300,000 just to set up one. So we're looking at $1,500,000 to set up the 5 treatment centers, and then from there, each one will be, as I said, will have checks and balances where it's regulated. The patient who has tried everything under the sun that hasn't worked will be able to go to their doctor. Their doctor will have to prescribe that he feels that they should try this process. And they will be given a card, similar to a business card or a little bigger credit card size, I guess. And they will be able to carry that card with them, and they'll be able to possess a certain amount of marijuana, and they will be able to, if they care to try to home grow it, which is a very difficult process from what we've been told, they will be able to grow up to, I think it was 6 plants, 12 seedlings, and they'll be able to grow their own. But they will not be able to distribute that. That will only be for their own personal use. And that, again, will be inspected from time to time. It will be regulated and controlled.
What kind of personnel will there be at each one of these centers? What qualifications will they have?
Each center will have qualified people as far as their knowledge of the product, and they will have a thorough federal background check. They cannot have had any kind of drug-related offenses in their past, no sort of felonies, nothing with handguns, anything like that. They will have to be totally, thoroughly vetted just to work at the centers.
Okay, so the only medical control is the person's doctor, and he goes to these 5 independent different, any one of the centers.
Any one of the centers.
And says, here's my doctor's approval for this treatment.
Right.
Okay. And if he wants to grow his own, does he buy plants from them too, or how does that part work?
He can buy seeds.
Yeah, oh, seeds. Okay.
Yes, he can buy seeds, and like I say, from what we've been told, it's a very difficult product to grow, and a lot of times you go through the entire process, which takes like 6 months to grow them, and you end up with nothing. It fizzles out.
And who pays for this? How does this get paid for? Is the patient charged? Or is
The patient is charged, and
Okay.
it's not cheap. It's very expensive.
Okay.
And the patient is charged. He goes to the treatment center, and the treatment center has a record. He cannot go from one treatment center to another. He goes to this one treatment center. That's controlled so that he can't center hop, as they call it.
And maybe sell the excess on the side.
Right. And a record is kept of when he goes there, how much he gets. He has a limit of what he can buy. And we have heard figures of $400 for 2 ounces.
And how long does that last? I mean,
That's usually a 1-month supply.
1 month supply.
1 month.
Okay. Okay, well, that doesn't sound too bad. It sounds like you do have the controls. I know bills that I saw when I was up there, they lacked a lot of control.
Right, right. Well, I brought the bill with me. It's a 26-page bill.
So people can get that if they want to go on the website and look at it if they had any questions.
Right,
about
they
the
can go on
details.
the New Hampshire General Court website, and I believe it says quick bill search. Click on that, and then put in
What's the bill number?
Put in HB 573,
573.
and the entire bill will come up, and they can see all the controls. We even changed the title. The title used to be medical marijuana.
Yeah.
Well, we changed that to the more proper term, which is cannabis for therapeutic uses.
I see.
So it's no longer marijuana for medical uses because that's not the proper term. So we even changed that. And there's the bill, 26 pages, and all the controls and everything. Any member of the public can go into that website, look it up, and see what the bill's all about.
Okay. On your committee meetings, how was the medical group represented, and what did they say about it?
They were very well represented. They attended every subcommittee and every committee meeting, and they went along with it. They put their 2 cents in and made changes.
Okay.
We welcome changes from anyone. We had the Nurses Association. The commission is made up of like 20 people, and it represents people from the public, people that the governor appoints, the medical society, the hospital association, all the people that should be involved are in there.
Did people complain that 5 is not enough? It's going to be difficult for some people to get to some of these places?
No, no one complained about that. They felt that 5 was a good starting point, and the bill has a sunset to it. It has a 5-year sunset, and the reason we did that, we had thrown around for a while doing a 3-year sunset, but the Medical Society informed us that it takes about 18 months just to set up a center, and it costs an initial fee of $300,000 for each center. So we felt, well, if 18 months is going to go by before this thing is ever even set up and the first center opens, then how can we then ask somebody to sunset 12 months later?
Yeah.
That wouldn't make sense. You're not going to get anybody to come in and put up $300,000 for a year and a half of test.
Yeah.
So we decided we had to give them a decent amount of time to get set up, get operating, and begin to serve the people. So we sunsetted it at 5 years.
Okay, good. Well, it sounds like you guys have thought about everything that I remember people questioning.
I think we have. I think Representative Steve Schmidt chaired the subcommittee, did an absolutely fabulous job. It was unbelievable, the job he did, just bringing all of this together and getting all the people to come in and congregate and allowing everyone to put in their 2 cents.
Good. Well, that's the way it's supposed to go.
It was a classic.
Doesn't always go that way.
I sat in committee yesterday after we passed this and publicly thanked Steve for the job that he did in coordinating this.
Good.
He deserved all the credit.
Well, have you, this one comes up for voting and then has to go over to the Senate, of course, and hopefully they don't change very much.
Hopefully. Well, you know the Senate. They have to change something.
They have to put something in there.
Yeah, hopefully they'll put something in for the good.
Yeah.
We have good people in the Senate. Some of them were co-sponsors. I was a co-sponsor on the bill. Donna Schlockman, Representative Schlockman was the primary sponsor. We have many senators. I think we have 4 senators sponsored with us, and 7 representatives that sponsored it. So we had a huge amount of sponsors.
Good. What other bills have you passed already? Have any actually been voted on by the House that from your committee?
We did, and if you want to start off on a lighter note.
I know what's coming. Go ahead.
You know what's coming. We passed the Drano bill.
Okay.
And the Drano bill is a bill that allows dissolving of a body. They want to call it cremation. The proper name is resumation. Resumation. And I don't want to get too gory because we've got viewers that are going to watch this, but what they basically do is dissolve a body in a solution of lye and water. My opposition to the bill was the fact that when the process is done, which takes about 4 hours, they basically flush it down into the water treatment center, into the sewer. Yeah. And I had a problem with that because there are minute particles of the remains of the body, the deceased, in that water. And it goes through the sewer system, it goes to the wastewater treatment center. It's mixed with, the way I explained it on the floor, it's mixed with the excrement of every single person who flushes their toilet. Yeah. And I just felt that that was a totally undignified way to dispose of a human body. They've been using it for years to dispose of animals. But to do that to a human body, I just, and biblically, you know, the Bible says dust to dust. Well, you can't get dust out of a solution of lye and water.
Well, there was,
so that's enough about the...
okay, so that didn't go anyplace.
It passed.
It did pass.
It passed. By a very narrow margin, it did pass. But I just hope the Senate just looks at it and shakes their head and says, why are we bothered with this?
Yeah. Was there a big push? I mean, who pushed something like that?
One particular funeral home, the largest funeral home in the state, in Manchester, apparently approached one representative, because it was only one representative supporting the bill, and he was able to convince enough people to go ahead with it. It was actually a big joke on the floor, and I think a lot of people did it just for the fun of it,
Well,
just to see where it goes.
let's see what happens with that one, but I'm not sure it should go anywhere.
I know where it should go. I'm well aware where it
Down with
should
the
go.
Drano, huh?
Down with the Drano, right.
What else was happening in your committee?
In my committee, I have a bill that was just passed through committee yesterday, HB 584, which is a bill that allows people that use mail order prescription drug systems, the mail order houses, especially up in the North Country, they have a problem up there where they can't always get their medications in time. So what this bill does is allow someone to go to a mom and pop pharmacy, or any pharmacy as far as that goes, but basically up there you've got the mom and pops. And they can go and they can get a 90-day supply. But we had to pass a bill allowing or asking the insurance companies to allow them to do this, because these mom and pops don't always have a contract with the insurance company. So we had to ask that they allow people to do this, and that's what the bill does.
Oh, I didn't even know that they weren't able to do the 90 days.
No, the mom and pops can only do a 30-day.
Oh.
And the mail order can do the 90-day. So we're asking that
Sure. It
that
should
they
be.
both,
It's only fair, it seems
right,
to me.
that it be made fair and they be
Yeah.
allowed to do that. The only problem that we had with the bill, and at the last minute we had to amend it, I had originally put in the bill that the mom and pop shall, and I used the word shall, and you know what happens when you use shall, that they shall accept the rate that the insurance company would reimburse. And I had to change that to may and leave it up to their discretion. If they feel they can do it, that's fine, but we couldn't tell them that they had to do it that way.
That seems all right, too.
Yeah. It's a good bill, and it passed 18-0, and it's going on to the House next week.
Oh, good, good.
So, and it's on the consent calendar.
Oh,
So-
all right. Well, 18-0, that's usually where they get.
Yeah.
Unless somebody gets.
And unless somebody pulls it off consent, it will sail through. And I think the Senate will be fine with that bill.
Well, let's talk about some of the others from the other committees that came out. One of the big ones in the news is the gas tax.
The gas tax.
What happened up there with all that last week?
The gas tax, that bill, we debated that bill for 2.5 hours. And, you know, basically what the Republicans thought was that we do need something to help to maintain our roads, to bring them back to what they should be. We do have some bad roads, and we have some red-listed bridges, but we felt that now is not the time for it, that the economy is not such that, that it should have been brought forth now. My understanding is it was brought forth 4 years ago or something like that, and at that time it wasn't the right time for it. When is the right time is anybody's guess, but definitely with the economy the way it is now, with the unemployment rate what it is, this is not the time to do it. However, the Democrat side that brought the bill forward was able to convince enough people. It passed by a very narrow margin. And it's a bill that's going to raise the gas tax 15 cents over 4 years. The first 3 years are 4 cents each year, and then 3 cents on the fourth year. And it does the same thing with what they consider the trucking industry as far as diesel fuel. It does the same thing, only in a different way. It goes, I think it's 6 years at 2.5 cents a year. You know, as far as the bill serving its purpose and doing it, the funds are directed at what they should be directed at. But there again, that's all well and good. It's a matter of whether the people can afford it. And our position was that the people cannot afford it at this time.
Well, I think that the amendment that was offered by Representative O'Brien wanted to have all the fund, the highway fund, as many people probably don't know, can be divided up.
Right.
The law, as we passed it, I believe, 2 years ago, said that the Transportation Department had to get at least 73%
Yes.
of that. And the other 27%, well, 25% of that went to the Department of Safety
Yes.
for the troopers.
Yes.
And then a couple other departments got the difference.
Yeah.
That amendment didn't pass at all very, very well. I mean, it failed by 100 votes, I think.
Yeah, it was an extremely good amendment, and former Speaker O'Brien presented it absolutely perfectly. He gave a beautiful speech on it, the best speech of the day, and he made his points. But there were just not enough people that that felt that what he was saying was the right thing to do. He wanted basically to say that all of the funds went to the maintenance of the roads and the bridges. And personally, I felt that was the way to go. It's basically it's a special tax in order to bring our roads and bridges back to standard condition, and to put all the funds into it would make that happen that much quicker. But for some reason or other, there were enough people who felt that the way that we distribute it now is fine.
Well, it was going to have to do something, because I know I was on the Public Works Committee, and we have a 10-year road plan, road and bridges, and only 5 years of money.
Yeah.
Somewhere it's going to have to be. I agree that the sales tax is not the way to do it now, but we haven't changed that sales tax since the 90s, so
Right.
I think in the future we're going to have to look at that. But I also think that transportation should get all of it. I think the funding
Absolutely.
for the state police should be coming out of general funds,
Absolutely.
not out of the transportation fund, because it is so limited, and we have so much to really take care of. In fact, I was surprised that recent articles in the papers was saying that even now they don't get 73% like they're supposed to.
That's
They're
right.
getting like 68%.
67,
because everybody's
68%,
nibbling
that's
at
right.
that.
Yes.
And that's something I think that the governor's going to have to watch when she gets her budget
Right.
trimmed and reorganized, or whatever's going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That's going to be something to be careful.
Yes, it will. As you alluded to, and you know, God bless all our troopers. They do a fabulous job. But the money that goes to the troopers, my point was, and there again, I don't want anybody to take offense to what I'm going to say, because I don't mean it offensively. But my point was that if they were complaining about troopers not having enough troopers on the road and needing more troopers, so this money would provide for that. And my point was, if so many troopers were not used as flagmen at construction sites, they would be able to answer these calls. There are enough troopers, I believe. And I believe we're really wasting their time by having them sit out on construction sites. I understand that the construction workers need safety, but I don't think that we need to take troopers off the road to
do
provide
that.
that safety for them. I think there's other methods of doing that. And therefore, that money wouldn't have to go for more troopers, because there are enough troopers. There are definitely enough troopers if they are utilized properly. I don't feel they're being utilized properly.
Well, that's a thought, because I know that argument has always come up, what was required by villages who don't want to use them on those roads, and don't have to.
Right.
But the major highways, the state, I guess, has some regulation where they have to be used.
I
Instead of
believe
flagmen,
it's
regular
I
flagmen.
believe it's probably a union, part of a union contract or something, either whether it's from the construction side or the trooper side. I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
But I believe that it's somehow or other it must be a contractual thing.
Well, we'll see what happens with that too,
It's
because that's going to come to a head.
it's going to come to a head, and it still has to go through the Senate. And as we stated before, the Senate has a mean
Well, yeah, you're going to see what it is, how much they clamp down and put their own stamp on it. But let's get to the budget. The budget is coming through, and normally the governor presents the budget in mid-February. But she did not present the whole budget because there are two bills that are components of the budget. One, the figures in HB1, and two, the language that enables the money to be obtained according to the figures in HB1, which is the bill is HB2. And that still hasn't, here it is March, and it's still not been delivered.
She hasn't come forth with it yet, and she's been criticized on a daily basis for not following the law. And basically, that's what she's doing. She's basically breaking the law because the law gives her a certain date that she has to do things. But she has remained steadfast. She hasn't commented on when she'll be doing it, if she'll be doing it.
And she hasn't said why it's late.
And she hasn't said why. That's right.
But I guess they're still figuring out how to justify some of the numbers they have.
Well,
or maybe they're going to change the numbers. I don't know.
Maybe. You know, she has the $80 million gambling
That's right.
revenue figure in there. We don't even have a gambling bill that's been passed even through committee yet, much less through the House or the Senate. So,
well, Ways and Means must be having, Ways and Means has to find out where all the money's coming from, and they must have jumping up and down. How are they figuring it out? I know, I've heard.
Right now they're pulling their hair out.
Yeah, I heard that the Republicans and Democrats have two different numbers on that committee.
They do, but they're not that far apart. You know, I don't want anybody to think that one side is on the way down side and the other side's outrageous. They're only about $13 million apart.
Is that all? I heard it was a little bit more, but I knew it was under 100.
Yeah, it's, well, there have been various figures, but I think the figure that comes out that I sort of go to is the figure of about 13 to 15 million, something like that. It's not a very big figure. But that, still, that $80 million that she is depending on as revenue from gambling has got to be, it's got to be figured in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And then it may not even happen.
All right.
In fact, the chances are extremely good that it won't happen.
And even if they vote the bill, will it be implemented in time? I don't know.
There again, it takes time. Massachusetts passed theirs, what, the year before last, was it?
Yeah.
And they don't have anything up and running yet.
Right, right.
So we're probably looking at 2015, 16, something like that, before we did even have a mini casino up and running.
Well, do you think that since you're on the committee with the largest budget, that they're going to go after you guys to come up with some way of balancing the budget?
I have sat here 2 or 3 times now, and I've made the same statement that I make all the time, and that is that there is no way that the most vulnerable people in this state are going to have anything taken away from them. I will fight that tooth and nail. I will promote programs that give to our most vulnerable people. If they are needy, we have an obligation to take care of them.
How does that work on the mentally handicapped and the mental health issue, which people say has been the one that's been most neglected?
It has been the most neglected. We have people, and it's an absolute crime. Not only a disgrace, but it's an absolute crime that we have people who are mentally challenged, who are laying in emergency rooms for 3 and 4 days at a time because we don't have beds at the mental facility to accommodate them. That is a disgrace. We should not even publish statements like that. We should be ashamed of ourselves for that.
Well, what solution is there to that? Is there anything in the works that's going to change?
There is a 10-year mental health plan, and we hopefully are going to increase beds every year so that this doesn't happen. So that and the hospitals are setting up mental health clinics and whatnot to better handle these people, to get them the help that they need.
Sure.
First, by identifying the fact they have a mental problem. And there are all sorts of mental problems. Drug abuse is a mental problem. So all of this has to be identified, and these people then have to be sent in the direction that can best help them.
Well, I know when my serving time on the as chair of the executive committee in the county, that the mental health courts really solved a lot of problems from the standpoint of working with the mental health groups in the cities. Anyway, I don't know what the smaller towns were able to do, but they kept a lot of the people out of jail where they shouldn't be, kept them in treatment,
Absolutely.
but they were under the court's care more or less. And they had appropriate sentences that were appropriate for whatever transgression that they had. Is that going to be enhanced, or is that going to, I mean, is it going to work the same way for people that don't have any kind of activity, you know, illegal activity? Are they going to just expand that system?
They're going to expand it. We attended a seminar 2 or 3 weeks ago by a Dr. Morrow, and he brought some people in that went through the court, the drug court system. And it's a fabulous program that they have going. And they also had the Chief Justice, Nadeau.
Oh, Nadeau?
Nadeau.
Okay.
And she is promoting it as much as she can. The courts are all for it. And some of the people that they brought in, Carl, you would not believe. They brought one gentleman in by the name of Chris. He had done everything, had committed every crime imaginable to get drugs. He would do anything. He even stated himself he would do anything, including sacrifice his mother to get drugs. This kid went through the drug court, and it's a totally voluntary program. But the program is set up in such a way as once they get somebody into it and they see the good that it's doing to them, they turn their life around. This kid, he was, I would say, probably about 28 or 29 years old. He now has 3 degrees. The kid is absolutely brilliant. The most awe-inspiring story you would ever hear for him to explain what he has gone through and how this drug court helped him. Now he's got a good position, good job, making good money, got a family, he's taking care of his family, been totally clean now for 2.5 years. And the system does work. And it keeps people out of jail who don't belong in jail, because once a person is sentenced to prison, they're pretty much a convict the rest of their life.
Right. So
because society doesn't allow them to turn their life around. Society doesn't accept them after they come out. They get menial jobs and whatnot. They don't have the opportunities. With the drug court, the opportunity is there. All they have to do is take it.
And the drug court's good, but what about people who haven't committed any kind of crime, especially young kids who are running into trouble, being disruptive, and really a lot of times that's a mental health problem. Not all the time, but a lot of times it is. Is there going to be any way of reaching out to those people?
There are attempts that are going to be made. I had a bill in this year to attempt to identify people who are on public assistance that are on public assistance because they have a drug problem. Nothing is being done about the drug problem. Nothing's being done to identify or send them to the proper treatment. Instead, we're just taking and throwing a check at the problem. If they go in and they qualify, we give them a check. Nobody cares about the drug situation, the mental capacity, or anything like that. So my bill was designed to identify these people and get them the treatment.
Right.
The bill was misconstrued by the newspapers, who said that I was trying to take people off of welfare and take money away from their kids and everything else. That was not what the bill was about. I had to put out a press release and a newspaper retraction to explain to people what the bill was all about. And it was just about identifying people and getting them the help that they need.
So what happened after
the bill was ITL'd, inexpedient to legislate, and it was killed.
So you think you're going back and do it again?
I I've got to
similar?
think about it and figure out
How to do
a
it
way
a
that
different
I
way?
can do it without people misconstruing what I'm trying to do. Possibly I didn't do as good a job as I should have done in trying to get people to recognize what I was trying to do.
It seems like it's very worthwhile if we can do that, but people are always wondering about all this money that we spend helping people. Is it being done effectively?
Right, and that was what
And
it was
that's the
all
whole
about.
question.
That was what it was
Yeah.
about. I mean, we can throw checks out there to people all the time for unlimited amounts of time and not really recognize what the real problem is. Why are they there asking for public assistance when they really have an underlying problem that's not even being addressed and only getting worse?
Right.
Which means that by getting worse, they're going to stay on the public assistance that much longer.
Have any of these initiatives been developed by the HHS, or is this outside groups trying to influence what HHS should be doing?
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. There are many groups who, like the drug court system, that's trying to do things to identify people and get them help. But then you have part of my bill stated that I felt that the Department of Health and Human Services was as much at fault as anybody, because they are happy to just sit back and, boy, Commissioner Toompas, how you doing? They are content to just sit back and do their daily, complacent, day-to-day job and not care one bit about the situation and about the real problem. They're content to just say, well, we gave out the checks.
You know, that's one of the things that I've heard about it, the complaint anyway, is that they have a lot of people, a lot of organizations that they have contracts with, several thousand, I believe.
Yes.
And do they effectively judge them as how well they're doing their job?
No, they don't.
And
No,
that's
they
the
don't.
problem.
There are no checks and balances. As far as I'm concerned, DHHS has run rampant. They do pretty much as they please with as little effort as possible.
Well, we talked about this, in fact, a bill that I was going to put in, you and others were going to pick up, but you would talk to people who were going to implement this check on everybody who gets a contract from the state, and that there's a evaluation form that's done at the end.
Right.
See whether they've done the job, they met the objectives, they've done it on time, within budget, and no complaints about interaction with the agency. I wonder if that's going to be implemented this year. Do you know?
We were told, I can't remember the gentleman's name, was it Michael Connor?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yes, Mike Connor.
We met with Representative Sobrowski and I, met with Michael Connor, and he assured us that that was a program that he could implement without going through any process, that he could just go ahead and do that. He promised us he was going to do that.
Okay.
He said it would take time. Now, this has been, what, 2 months ago, something like that?
Yeah.
I have not gone back to meet with him,
Okay.
but I will go back
I'm kind of
sometime this
curious
month.
because
I'll
I
go
think
back.
this is one of the things that we could resolve this question people
Oh, sure.
have.
Sure.
You know?
He engulfed the program. He thought the program was great, and like I say, he told us straight out, I can implement this without going through
any law.
anything.
Okay,
Without
good.
anything. I will go back this month and speak with him and see if he has begun that implementation.
Okay, good. That'll be good. And I think he's a good person to work with because he was influential in what they do in the Department of Transportation. They have a system like that for these big contracts. I mean, multi-million-dollar contracts.
Right.
So there is a way of qualifying and evaluating the company's performance on the contracts, but not these little ones. You know,
Yeah.
$50,000 or $100,000, which might be some little town handling some kind of a
Yeah.
problem like this mental health one.
Sure.
And whether or not it's effective in maybe combining some of these smaller groups, you know, so that you don't have 100 of them across the state, or you have maybe 3 or 4 organizations with 100 different sites.
Right. I still have your folder, all your information, and I told him that I would be getting back to him to see
Okay.
where we were with it.
Well, I think you're pretty effective in there.
If he has done nothing,
Yeah.
first thing I'm going to tell him is that he lied to me. Straight out, I'm going to tell him he lied to me. But I feel after having talked to him that he will follow
I think
through.
he's a believer in it.
He'll do what he can.
I think if he can't do it, somebody else clamp down on him.
Well, if he can't do it, there will be an open session to submit new bills coming up pretty soon.
Right.
So we will
that's
go
what I
that
think we
route
don't
if we
do.
have to. And we're not ashamed to comment on persons' names who don't follow up on what they said they were going to do.
Oh. Well, what do you think? You're also serving on the executive committee for the county.
Yes, I am.
Have
Yes,
they
I am.
gotten into their budget yet?
No, we haven't gotten into the budget yet. We've had our orientation meetings and whatnot, and we've submitted our requests for our committees.
Uh-huh.
This month, we should start getting into the nitty-gritty of that.
Okay, you see a tough time again this year as it was last year?
We've requested that each department come in with a 3% less budget to start with. And that would be the starting point. We may have to go up from there. We may have to, if they come in and say, we can handle this with the 3% cut and we can handle it fine, then fine, that's great. That makes our job easy. But if they come in saying we need a 3% increase, then that's going to be a different situation. We're going to have to talk to them about that because, again, the economy just right now, we have got to keep things as close to the vest as we possibly can.
Well, I know from my experience on that they have been pretty good in not getting raises and stuff, and it's I feel in a way you like to be able to do something when you find out that the sheriff hasn't had a raise in 6 years, then he's not making $100 grand like some of the people are doing.
Quite a few of them are doing.
That you want to be able to help them, but at the same time, you have a tax. You have all those people out there who are paying the taxes, and
that's the people basically that we have to be interested in. I mean, they're the people paying the bill, and it's no different than your household budget.
Right.
If you don't have the money in your checking account, you've got one of two choices: either write a check is going to bounce, or don't pay somebody.
That's right. One of the things that they were doing last year, and I was wondering if it was completed, did they complete that gas line to the nursing home? They were going to be able to use gas instead of...
They did complete that, yes, and supposedly the figures that I've heard, they have saved quite a bit of money.
Good, good. That was one of the
We
big
don't have
things.
final figures on it. The only response we got is that it is saving money.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, well, it's one of the ideas that popped up last year.
Yeah.
But, if you push hard enough, sometimes people get a little bit more innovative in things that they... And they, oh, I never thought about that before. Well, if you pay something to get the gas line extended and you're going to save 3 times as much, it's a no-brainer. Have they done anything with there any of the facilities or the extra facilities that are available?
Not really. No,
Okay.
that's pretty much been set aside for the time being. And then again, you've got the governor is pushing for a new women's prison.
That's right.
Where's the money coming from for that? Nobody knows. They had planned at one time to look into privatizing some of the prisons. So much information has come in from other states that have done that are sorry they did it. There's very few that say that it worked out on a positive note for them. Most of them are negative. So I don't think we'll be going that route. But the governor does feel that we need the new women's prison.
Well,
I'm not convinced of that. I've toured all the prisons. I've toured every one of them, and I think they're very adequate. And I think they're very well run.
In the county there, I think they're excellent prisons.
Yes.
I've been through it too, and they seem.
We don't need more prisons. We need less convicts.
Well, that's one way of looking at it.
And the way we get less convicts, go back to identifying people that have problems and treat the problem.
Before they
and stop the courts from just saying, well, you committed a crime, you're going to jail.
Right.
That's what we have to do.
Right. They have to pay more attention to people early on.
Right. Right. We have a society, a diverse society that is made up of so many different types of people. And there are people out there that are totally functional as far as working, taking care of a family and whatnot, but they have an underlying problem. If we identify that problem and treat it and let them continue on as functional people, it's great for the economy, it's great for the family structure, and we don't need the new prison.
That's a good way. Oh, how do we convince the governor? Well, she's got a job.
She's got a job working on getting that budget out.
Oh, that's true. That's true. In a way, I don't regret not being there for solving that, because that is going to be a job. And it's going to wait until they have those joint committees, and come May and June.
Well, we had a joint committee yesterday between HHS and Finance.
Oh, did you?
On the Medicaid exchanges.
Uh-huh.
We had I think it was about a 2.5-hour hearing, and we allowed the public to, anyone who wanted to speak got a chance to speak. We listened to everybody. We listened to pro and con, mostly pro. Most people wanted the exchanges. Again, that's a really difficult decision on how we're going to do that. The financing, the money that travels back and forth. Some people don't seem to understand that when the federal government gives you money, that's money that you've given the federal government.
Right, right. And then they give it back with a haircut.
And they give it back with a haircut, because every penny the federal government gives you, they have to borrow 46 cents on every dollar, which puts us further in debt. So, you know, everything is a win-win, lose-lose situation. Well, it depends on what part of it you want to come at from, as to whether it's a good solution or a bad solution, or if there's something in between that we can work out.
Well, that's the interesting part, whether you go it alone or you go in between. Because generally, if you take any money, the strings that go along with it drag you into it, and then later on you have to pay more money.
Absolutely.
And are you ready to do that when it looks like it's an open-ended situation?
And what people have to understand is, whereas the first year the federal government pays 90%, that decreases year after year after year, which means that the state picks up the ball.
Exactly.
Which means that that money has got to come from somewhere. And the only place that money can come from: raise taxes, raise fees, raise services, income tax, sales tax. Where do we go?
Yeah.
Where do we go?
So is there any conclusion, or how's that going to progress? What's the next step in that line?
Personally, I feel that we will probably enter into exchanges. The good side of that is, if you try it and it doesn't work, you can opt out. If you opt out to begin with, you can join at any time. So it's not something that we absolutely have to do one way or the other. There is flexibility there.
Is there a thought of running the exchange ourselves or without government help?
We have talked about that, and that's still in the discussion stage.
Okay, so there's another complicated situation that you're going to be dealing with.
Yes.
Medicare, Medicaid, and the reimbursement from the hospitals. How's that coming along?
Well, we had a lot of testimony on that yesterday. In fact, I left there yesterday from that committee meeting, and I think I had about 85 pages of testimony.
Really?
Pro and con. But you know, we held the meeting on the House floor. It was basically packed. I would say out of the 400 seats, there was 300 to 325. Most everybody wanted to either speak or turn in some sort of testimony. And we listened intently to everything they said. Everybody has their own story as to why something works or doesn't work for them. And we listen intently to every one of them. And then you have to go back and look through all that and decide now, you know, as the person that's going to be voting on it, what was the most convincing way to go? Because it's all about serving the public.
Right.
It's not about me. It's not about what I think. It's about trying to decipher what they're telling me that they want me to do. And you have to go through all that literature and make a decision. And those decisions can be tough.
Well, you don't see any.
I had totally black hair 2 weeks ago.
At least you have hair. I know a few people have lost it.
I don't know, my forehead's getting kind of long.
Don, I've enjoyed talking to you. It's been interesting. I know you're very active and very much involved in everything up there, and we're glad we have you as a representative here in Nashua.
Thank you.
Speaking for us. We're looking ahead to what's happening, and we'll probably be asking you to come back sometime in May or June.
That would be my pleasure.
Really,
my pleasure. I've always got plenty to talk about.
You certainly do. There's a lot of things you're involved in.
I try to stay into everything. I volunteer for every committee that comes down the pike.
Yeah.
Last year, I did not get a break over the summer. I served on committees the entire year.
I don't think people realize that, what happens in the off session.
In the off session, you can either take off and go on recess, or you can stick around and go through all of these problems and study them from a different perspective on a smaller committee to be taken back to the larger committee with recommendations. And that's where I stand. Last summer, I served on 5 subcommittees over the summer. This year, I've been named to the Committee on PTSD and TBI, which is the post-traumatic stress disorder and the temporary brain injuries for our vets. I'm extremely involved in Veterans Affairs. I co-sponsored or sponsored 5 bills this year for veterans benefits and such, and I'm still working on those. They haven't come up for a vote yet, but they're going to pass.
Did you think you'd be this involved when you first ran 2 years ago?
I didn't think I would, but I hoped I would.
Oh.
And I'm not satisfied. If there's something that I feel that I can in any way influence, I want to be there.
Good.
I've already volunteered to be placed on 2 committees of conference on bills that haven't even been assigned to a committee of conference yet, but when they are, I want to be the first in line.
Well,
so I've already volunteered for that.
Well, that's good.
One of them is on this mental health issue.
Yeah.
That's a committee.
I think that's a very
I hope that's going to go to committee of conference. I think it will, and I want to be there.
Well, you got to watch in the language of these things, too. I think that's one of the things that you pay attention to very well. The unintended consequences that can be happening can make it worse than...
That's very true.
That's
very true.
And we've seen that happen.
That's very true. But with anything, you've got to identify that there is a problem, what the problem is, and then design a treatment for it. We're still in the infancy stage because I feel that we're not even identifying enough of the problems. And we're definitely not treating them.
Who would you think has to help on that? I mean, how do we get these problems to become more public and the need explained to everybody a little bit better?
I didn't bring it with me, but I have a pamphlet on the 10-year mental health plan. It's an extremely good plan. There are good people on the committee. The chairman of HHS, my chairman, Representative Jim McKay, past mayor of Concord, and he holds every position ever known in this state. And he's an extremely intelligent individual, and he is the chair of the committee on that.
Good.
And we're going to be working hard on it.
Is there a way that people can contact, well, you or anybody that is this person from Concord who might be able to give them that booklet or something if they have a problem?
If they will contact me, I'll reproduce the booklet gladly.
Okay.
Anyone who wants it, if they will contact me, they can reach me by either by legislative email, which is readily available in the New Hampshire General Court. So I just click on my name, and all my information is out there. I'm totally public. My home telephone number, my email address, my street address. You can send a carrier pigeon if you've got one. I will get it, and I will answer.
Would you mind giving your phone number out right now for people who don't have a computer?
Okay. My phone number is 886-1725, and my email address is donniebearalso@yahoo.com. That's DONNIEBEARALSO BEARALSO @yahoo.com. Send me an email, I'll answer you. And that goes, let me clarify that. That goes for anyone in the state of New Hampshire.
Okay.
I'm not somebody who looks at an email and says, well, that's from Rochester. They can't vote for me. So I delete that. I'm not one of those. If you send me an email from Rochester, I will answer you.
I don't know how you get the time to do all that.
I spend a lot of time on the computer in the evenings, but if people feel that for whatever reason that they have something to say to me, whether it's pro or con, if they take the time to send me an email, I'll answer their email.
Good. I wish all the people were like that, Don.
Well, that's, you know, I ran for election because I wanted to serve the people. I love serving the people. I love every minute I'm in Concord. I live for every minute I'm in Concord. And I enjoy every minute of it. I make the best of my entire time up there.
Good. We hope we have more like people like you. And as you know, this program is sponsored by the Nashua Republican City Committee. Our website is nashuagop.org. Look on that website to find out the activities we have. The second Thursday of every month, we have a meeting with the speaker at the Crown Plaza here in Nashua. It starts at 6:30. We look forward to meeting anybody new, anybody who wants to get active in the political situation here in Nashua is welcome to contact us. And we also welcome your questions and suggestions for future programs. So thank you very much for listening in. Good night.